Welcome to a special edition of Reality Reckoning. What you are about to see is the result of a months-long investigation, piecing together court documents, exclusive interviews with confidential sources, and the tragic timeline of events that TLC and the Castravet family never wanted you to know. The story begins not with a bang, but with a whisper of trouble. After losing $75,000 in his business, Andrei Castravet suffered a major setback. But that wasn't the end. Shocking revelations soon emerged. According to confidential sources, Andrei Castravet became entangled in nearly $350,000 of debt through online gambling platforms. As he failed to repay the debt, a lawsuit was filed against him, and he was subsequently arrested, and it was taken to court. After a lengthy hearing, the final verdict was announced in court. Based on all the evidence and testimonies, the judge read out the ruling in a stern voice. According to the court's judgment, Andrei Castravet has been sentenced to 1 year and 2 months of imprisonment for his crime. With this truth exposed, the situation turned even more tragic. During this financial crisis, his wife Elizabeth became overwhelmed and ultimately decided to leave him. At last, Elizabeth divorced Andrei Castravet. To understand Andrei's downfall, we have to go back to where it all started. Andrei Castravet always projected an aura of unshakable confidence. From his early days on 90 Day Fiancé, he clashed with Elizabeth's family, particularly her father, Chuck. The central conflict, his employment or lack thereof. Andrei was determined to prove he wasn't a freeloader, he was a provider. Eventually, with a $75,000 investment from his now father-in-law, Chuck, Andrei launched a real estate business in Florida. It was portrayed on the show as a success story, a redemption arc for the often maligned Moldovan immigrant. He was flipping houses, making deals, and finally earning the respect he so desperately craved. But our investigation reveals that the narrative presented on television was incomplete. In late 2022, Andrei's real estate business suffered a significant off-camera blow. A property flip in the Tampa area, which he had sunk a substantial amount of capital into, went disastrously wrong. It was a perfect storm. Andrei was confident, maybe overconfident. The inspection missed major structural and plumbing issues. The renovation costs doubled, then tripled. The market also cooled right as they were ready to list. They had to sell at a massive loss just to get out from under the mortgage. It wiped out almost the entire initial investment. According to 2 separate sources close to the family, this loss amounted to nearly the entire $75,000 stake from Chuck. Andrei was devastated. This wasn't just a financial loss. It was a massive blow to his pride. He had failed, and the pressure to not only recover the money, but to maintain the image of success was immense. And it was in this state of vulnerability, of desperation, that Andrei Castravet made a fateful decision. He turned to what he believed was a quick fix, a way to win back his losses and prove his doubters wrong in one fell swoop. He turned to online gambling. Our sources indicate that Andrei began with small bets on sports, international football matches, American football games. It was manageable, but after the business loss, the stakes grew higher. He discovered high-stakes online poker and blackjack tables, accessible 24/7 from his phone or laptop. He'd be up all night. Elizabeth would think he was working on deals, but he'd be in his office, the door locked, staring at that screen. There were times he'd win big, $10,000, $15,000 in a night. He'd talk about buying a new car, taking a fancy vacation, but that's how it gets you. The wins hook you, and the losses destroy you. According to financial records we've obtained, Andrei used a combination of personal savings, lines of credit, and most damningly, business accounts to fund his escalating addiction. He was chasing his losses, a classic and destructive gambler's fallacy, believing the next big win was just around the corner to erase all his debts. In a period of just under 9 months, Andrei Castravet had accumulated losses totaling nearly $350,000. The debt wasn't to a bank, it was to a network of sophisticated and largely unregulated online gambling platforms. These sites, they're not your local casino. They have algorithms. They extend credit to high rollers. They make it incredibly easy to dig yourself into a hole you can never get out of. When you can't pay, they don't send a friendly reminder, they send threats. Then they send lawyers. In early 2023, the demands for payment turned into legal threats. One platform, based in Curacao, but with legal representation in the United States, filed a civil lawsuit against Andrei in a Florida court for non-payment of debts totaling over $140,000. This was the beginning of the end. The lawsuit was a shockwave through the Castravet household. Elizabeth, who according to sources was largely kept in the dark about the severity of the gambling, was blindsided. The carefully constructed image of the successful real estate entrepreneur was shattered. It was apocalyptic. The fighting was constant. Chuck found out. Everyone found out. How could they not? He was being served papers at his home. Elizabeth was hysterical. She felt betrayed on every level. The money was gone, but worse than that, the trust was obliterated. Andrei failed to respond to the lawsuit in a timely manner. He missed court dates, likely hoping it would just go away. But it didn't. The plaintiff's lawyers pursued a judgment against him, and due to the specific nature of the debt and his non-response, the judge issued a bench warrant for his arrest for contempt of court. On the morning of May 12, 2023, the reality of Andrei's situation became terrifyingly real. As he was leaving his home to run an errand, he was met by two sheriff's deputies in his driveway. It was humiliating. Neighbors saw everything. He was put in handcuffs in broad daylight, put in the back of a squad car, and driven to the Pinellas County Jail. Elizabeth was inside with their daughter. She saw it all from the window. She collapsed. Andrei Castravet was booked, fingerprinted, and processed. He spent a night in jail before posting a bond the following day. The charge was civil contempt, but the arrest was real. For a man whose entire persona was built on control and strength, this was the ultimate humiliation. The civil case morphed. The gambling platform's legal team, armed with evidence of fraud, specifically that Andrei had used business funds for personal gambling, a potential breach of fiduciary duty, pushed for the case to have criminal elements considered. The state picked it up. The charges were now more serious: wire fraud and theft by deception. The prosecution alleged he had knowingly defrauded the gambling platforms by incurring debt. Just over a month after Andrei began his sentence, Elizabeth filed for divorce. The grounds cited were irretrievable breakdown of the marriage. Our sources close to Elizabeth say it was the most difficult decision of her life, but she felt she had no other choice. She loves him. I believe she will always love him. But love isn't always enough. The man she married, the strong provider she believed in, was gone, replaced by a stranger consumed by an addiction that stole everything from them. She had to save herself and her daughter. The divorce was finalized uncontested. Andrei, from his prison cell, had no means to fight it. Elizabeth was granted full custody of their daughter. She has since moved out of the home they shared and is reportedly trying to rebuild her life away from the spotlight, relying on her family for support. So where does this leave everyone? Andrei Castravet remains incarcerated, with a projected release date in mid-2024. Upon his release, he will likely face deportation proceedings, as his permanent residency can be revoked for committing a felony. The relationship with the Podast family is irreparably broken. Chuck feels not just betrayed financially, but horrified at the pain caused to his daughter. The family that once welcomed Andrei with open arms, despite their televised disagreements, now wants nothing to do with him. As for Elizabeth, she is a single mother, picking up the pieces of a life shattered by secrets and addiction. The fairy tale that began on 90 Day Fiancé has ended in the most tragic way imaginable. This story is a stark cautionary tale. It's about the destructive power of addiction, the danger of secrets, and the immense pressure of living a life in the public eye. It's a reminder that the curated reality we see on television is often a fragile facade, and that the pursuit of image can sometimes lead to the loss of everything that truly matters. Our thoughts are with all those affected, especially the innocent child caught in the middle of this tragedy. More update. Shocking news has stirred the world of 90 Day Fiancé. Recently, Elizabeth and Andrei made a major announcement that left fans buzzing. But that was only the beginning. An explosive secret forced the family to flee the country. Things took an even darker turn when the couple decided to take a break after their worst fight ever. And just when fans thought it couldn't get any more dramatic, Alexei accidentally slipped up, exposing Andrei's massive secret. I will explain everything. 90 Day Fiancé stars Elizabeth and Andrei's announcement creates a stir. When miscommunication resulted in an unexpected public declaration during their recent trip to Moldova, Elizabeth Profess and Andrei Castravet's relationship took a serious turn for the worst. In a dramatic sequence on the most recent episode of 90 Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After, the couple, who have been married for 8 years and have 2 children together, found themselves at odds over their future plans. The conflict started when Andrei threw a huge party for his relatives and friends back home that was reminiscent of their lavish wedding celebration from years prior. He spoke to the audience in Romanian at the event, expressing what he thought was a collective decision on the future of their family. In a recent teaser video, Andrei told his loved ones that he and Elizabeth would be moving to Moldova permanently with their kids. But because of the language barrier, Elizabeth had no idea what her husband was telling the group. My proficiency in Romanian is still lacking. Some things are lost in translation because of my limited language, and this is one of those instances, Elizabeth disclosed in a confessional. I don't know what's going on, so I feel kind of stupid. When Andrei stunned everyone with a lavish fireworks display to celebrate what he believed to be their permanent transfer, the issue grew even more confusing. And Elizabeth was still perplexed by what had happened that evening. Throughout their time on the program, the couple's relationship has been impacted by persistent communication problems, which are highlighted in this incident. When significant choices are being considered or announced, Elizabeth's poor command of Romanian has caused obstacles. After Andrei's declaration, Elizabeth seemed perplexed and shocked, saying afterwards, "I don't know what the expletive I'm doing here, honestly." It appears from this response that the couple had not decided to make Moldova their permanent residence. Elizabeth's worries about sharing a bathroom with 6 others were among the many aspects of their Moldova experience that some fans felt were out of touch with reality. Many believed that rather than addressing real-life issues, her general response to the trip appeared to be staged. The misunderstanding exposes more serious problems with the couple's decision-making process. Elizabeth's response suggests that they may have been talking about the trip differently, even though Andrei seemed to think she had consented to the permanent move. Elizabeth talked to friends Lauren Brovanik and Yara Zaya about her possible move before they left for Moldova, but both of them had doubts about the idea. Their worries went beyond their own inclinations to encompass pragmatic concerns regarding the state of the world today. Yara couldn't contain her disbelief as they spoke, wondering, why the expletive would you move to Moldova? Elizabeth clarified that they hadn't made a snap decision, emphasizing that she wanted to look into what Moldova might have to offer their family. Several commentators cast doubt on the authenticity of this plot, arguing that the couple made it up to keep their spot on the show and that they aren't really thinking about moving permanently. In spite of her friends' reservations, Elizabeth had indicated that she was amenable to Andrei's proposal to establish a future in his native country. She stated that they wanted to investigate the chances in the nation and locate appropriate schools for their kids. The Sun claims that the pair presently owns real estate in Florida. In 2021, they paid $397,900 for land in Zephyrhills, where they constructed a 2-story house with 4 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms. 90 Day Fiancé shocking secret forces family to flee the country. A huge truth was just revealed by Andrei Castravet on 90 Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After. That led his wife, Elizabeth Libby Profess, and their kids to depart Moldova. Libby and Andrei's desires have been at odds for the majority of the season. Andrei hopes that a family vacation to Moldova will be just what he needs to convince his wife to support his plan to return home. Libby, on the other hand, is considerably more apprehensive about the relocation and seeks advice from her father as well as other 90 Day Fiancé alumni, such as Lauren Brovanik and Yara Zaya, to help her decide whether or not this is the best course of action for her family. Regretfully, there have been several surprises during the trip, including the big news that Libby will be traveling to America on the next aircraft with their children and without her husband. Soon after their journey, the 90-Day Fiancé actor discloses that he lost about $75,000 due to a poor investment he made during the Russian/Ukrainian conflict. Libby was already irritated that her husband wasn't being completely forthright, but Andrei created the impression that they were heading back to Moldova after a big family party. When he showed her the progress at a rental home, things became worse. For around 2 years, his property remained unaltered, and Libby was upset. Thus, the progress was far from what was anticipated. The filthy house appeared to have been unattended for months and was crammed with trash and supplies. "Please keep me informed," she begged him. "But why didn't you tell me?" But Andrei didn't want to break the bad news to her since he didn't want her to think about raising their family in Moldova. Libby is clear despite Chuck Pothast, her father, trying to step in. She no longer trusted Andrei after he lied to her. She consequently cancelled her ticket and left her spouse behind in order to depart with her father. Unfortunately, this is not the first time Andrei has mismanaged the family's finances or made a poor investment. Upon arriving in America, the 90-Day Fiancé star had aspirations of becoming a truck driver. With his father-in-law Chuck's assistance, he attended school and even purchased a truck. His company attempt was short-lived since he sat at home and played games while his wife worked. Andrei switched careers a year or two later, even though he had no prior experience. He made the decision, like the other Pothasts, to pursue a career in real estate. Chuck would have to compete directly with his in-laws if he paid the $100,000 required by Andrei to get started. There is currently another investment of almost $100,000 that Andrei has lost. But the worst part of this circumstance is that Andrei caught his wife off guard. Libby was aware of the other investments, and although Andrei's worries about his wife's reluctance to relocate are reasonable, the Moldovan native is obviously using this as a ploy. Sadly, it appears quite doubtful that Andrei will be able to persuade his wife to relocate overseas, particularly given that his family is once again suffering as a result of another one of his poor investments. Andrei is left to tell his family what transpired once his wife returns to America. This also implies that he must take responsibility for the lies he told his family. Andrei, though, is sure to manipulate this situation to his advantage, just as he did with his earlier ventures. He might also ask his father-in-law for additional assistance. However, the Moldovan star appears to have more pressing issues to deal with for the remainder of the season. Elizabeth and Andrei are taking a break after their worst fight ever. A worst fight ever has brought 90-Day Fiancés Andrei and Elizabeth to their breaking point. Their most recent argument rocked their marriage to its foundation, and Libby may be questioning whether or not she made the correct choice in marrying Andrei. Libby may not know much about many things, but she does know that Andrei has changed since she married him. Now when she wants answers, her spouse can't provide them to her. Tell me the truth. Just what is going on here? Because what is the reason behind their conflict? This topic is pretty intense, so you should keep reading to find out more. A fresh angle on Andrei and Libby's romance has recently emerged on 90-Day Fiancé. You can usually catch them yelling angrily at each other in front of their children. In a recent episode, Andrei nearly gave his wife the go-ahead to change her mood and take a shower. At this point, Libby became very emotional. Even though her husband had barking orders, she made it quite plain that she was going to take a shower because she wanted to. "All right, independent American woman," Andrei muttered, rolling his eyes. "Just do it. Go do it yourself," he urged. Libby called her husband ridiculous, since she thought the scenario was implausible. Andrei, star of 90-Day Fiancé, has chosen to show Chuck and Libby his investment property, since he knows he can't keep the situation hidden any longer. But Chuck didn't believe a word of it and asked himself whether the land was real. When Andrei's business partners went missing and refused to come forward, his story took a turn for the worse. The time for truth has arrived. Libby was against the plan as well, and Chuck was worried the houses inside had been bombed. The property will consume more money than they had invested in it, she attempted to explain. They had no idea that the material provider had actually taken all of the money, leaving Andrei with no choice. It was a Russian corporation, Andrei said, and it hadn't responded to any of his emails since the conflict between Russia and Ukraine began. They did, in fact, steal from them. The money wasn't Libby's biggest worry, but the way Andrei lied to her made her furious. Elizabeth made it plain that she doesn't want to live if her husband acts like this during the worst fight of their marriage. Libby wasted no time getting chucked back to the United States. Meanwhile, Andrei has expressed his pain and mentioned, "We'll take a break." He waited for his wife to calm down before returning with the rest of the family. "I am releasing her and allowing her to be," he continued. Oops! Alexei slips up and exposes Andrei's massive secret. Inadvertently, 90-day fiancé Alexei Brovanik revealed a significant revelation that Andrei Castravet most certainly did not want to be known. Regarding the latter's whereabouts, he provided some startling information and declared that he was heading in lost. But what sort of loss? Alas, poor Alexei may have forgotten his bro code and told his wife and Yara everything. However, it is not all. The secret is now public knowledge, but Andrei may have chosen to keep it to himself by not telling his wife, Elizabeth. However, what is the point of this? Andrei, what kind of loss is he dealing with? What was the response from Lauren and Yara? Because the tea is so hot, continue reading to learn more about this dispute. It was not Elizabeth's decision to relocate to Moldova. The decision was made by Andrei, and she just didn't want to disagree with her spouse. The pair talked about this plan with their pals on 90-day fiancé, happily ever after, and Lauren was totally opposed. Because Andrei imposed his will on her companion, she had problems with him. Elizabeth did clarify, though, that her friends must keep in mind that there are limits and that they cannot intrude on every issue. She made the long journey to Moldova in order to support her husband. Despite the obvious challenges she faces due to the language barrier and cultural differences, Libby is clearly making every effort to adapt to the new situation. In 90-day fiancé, happily ever after, the equations between Lauren and Alexei, Jove and Yara, and Andrei and Elizabeth are currently on display. The two of them so made the decision to go out when the latter pair was gone. When Yara wanted to know what had happened in Moldova and how things went there, she was eager to say that she was willing to meet the pair. Alexei, though, was ready to add his voice, since Andrei would have had to tell his wife that he had lost $75,000. He thinks that things wouldn't have gone so well. Not believing what he was hearing, Jove quickly intervened to stop Alexei. It was forbidden for them to discuss this with their wives, he pointed out. In an ET-only video, Dufresne reminded his companion that the information ought to have remained confidential. The secret had already been revealed. Then, Alexei told Yara and Lauren that Andrei wasn't certain. A building in Moldova, he informed his buddies, might not be being constructed. Thus, he had a probability of losing $75,000. The celebrity clarified that he nonchalantly informed Elizabeth of the news, since he believed she would have known by now. Elizabeth, Lauren pointed out, would have been aware that $75,000 would have been invested in Moldova. It appears, however, that she is unaware that they have already left. Alexei, though, made a joke about how Libby would now find out. Do you have any thoughts on this? Tell us in the comments area, please. No more today. What are you thinking about this gossip today? Let us know in the comments, and stay tuned by subscribing to our channel to get more updates like this. Thank you.